My phone buzzed with a message from my own family. We need space from you. Stop reaching out to us. Completely. No follow-up. No hesitation. No room to breathe. Just a flat, emotionless line glowing on my screen like a danger signal. I stood frozen in my cramped apartment, the quiet pressing down harder than any fight we'd ever had. And instead of pleading, instead of falling apart, I sent back the calmest sentence I've ever typed. They had no clue what that single moment would end up costing them. Before I go on, tap like and comment your city so I know who's hearing this on the other side of the chaos. My name is Maeve Whitlock, and for most of my life, I've been the person everyone hands their problems to. Like an extra coat. Silently, automatically, never asking if I'm already weighed down. I work in payroll at a medical facility here in the city, a job that depends on structure and accuracy. Two things I've held on to for years. My apartment mirrors that mindset. Warm lighting, spotless counters, receipts sorted by color in a drawer that sticks a bit when the air gets humid. Nothing luxurious. Just steady. And in my family, steady has always meant one thing. I pay. My mother, Linda, loves to repeat that family takes care of family. She usually says it while standing by the sink, towel in hand, doing that long sigh instead of finishing her thought. My father, Robert, takes a sharper approach. Long talks about loyalty and obligation, about how he didn't raise me to count pennies when it comes to blood. When his tone tightens, it's my cue that there's a bill hovering somewhere, waiting for me to handle it. Then there's my sister, Nora, 3 years younger but louder by miles. Growing up, she always knew how to pull focus. New clothes, new hair, new crisis. She calls me banker girl. Half teasing, half cutting. Always useful when she needs help with a deposit or another car payment. And whenever I tried to refuse, the family chorus kicked in. Don't overreact. She can't manage on her own. You're the responsible one. Even the extended relatives joined in. Our group chat never stopped. Updates, pictures, jokes, complaints. Until money entered the conversation. Then every message sharpened, reminding me of everything my parents had done. How much Nora deserved some relief. How I shouldn't make things uncomfortable. It never seemed to matter that no one knew my finances, or the knots I twisted myself into every month just to keep everyone else steady. Through all of it, the one person who never took advantage of me was my Uncle Grant. He runs a small moving company across town, the kind of work that builds strong arms and a quiet understanding of people. He never asked, never hinted. He just observed. I didn't realize how much that would matter until much later. For years, I convinced myself this was just how families worked. Everyone has a role, and mine happened to be the one who covered emergencies, gaps, and all the "I'll pay you back next week" promises that never did. I told myself it wasn't personal, but every time I opened my banking app, every time my own plans shrank so theirs could expand, something inside me pulled tight. Then came the night everything shifted. The night that message arrived. The one that felt less like a text and more like a door being slammed shut. The days before it felt off in a way I couldn't quite name back then. Subtle changes. Small cuts. Moments that should have brushed past me but instead lodged under my skin like sand. And as usual, it started with Nora. She arrived at my parents' place wearing a brand new coat, the tag still stiff and creased in the fabric, and immediately launched into a conversation about a safer apartment she was considering on the other side of the city. She never looked at me while she spoke. She didn't need to. "You'll handle the deposit, right?" she asked, eyes glued to her phone, her tone as casual as ordering food. I said no. Not raised, not sharp. Just a calm, steady no I'd rehearsed alone in the bathroom mirror. My mother, Linda, stopped cold with a dish mid-air. My father, Robert, let out a slow, disappointed breath. That was enough. The atmosphere shifted, the room tightened, and suddenly I was selfish all over again. Nora didn't even blink. "Come on, banker girl," she said, smiling like she shared a joke I wasn't part of. "It's not that serious." I left early that night, sat in my car while the heater clicked on and off, and wondered why setting one simple boundary felt like committing a crime. The real hit landed 2 days later when my office phone rang. I answered in my work voice. Calm, clipped, professional. Only to hear my parents' landlord cheerfully confirming the renewal of their automatic deposit arrangement. My arrangement. He thanked me for clearing up a late fee. A late fee I hadn't even known existed. Then he kept talking, mentioning that my parents had given him my work email, and even my schedule so he could reach me at a convenient time. I remember staring at the wall across from my desk, the cheap canvas art going blurry as heat crept up my neck. They hadn't just taken my money. They'd opened a door into my professional life, handed out personal details like party favors. I'd never thought I'd need to protect my privacy from my own family. Suddenly, I wasn't sure I had any left at all. That evening, I drove straight to their apartment complex. The hallway smelled of cleaning solution and leftover takeout. I sat my parents down on the sagging couch I'd bought for Nora, with her leaning in the doorway, and finally said the words I'd been swallowing for years. I deserve to know what I'm paying for. My mother's face went rigid. We feel attacked. My father folded his arms. Use that tone with your coworkers, not with us. From the hall, Nora laughed. Should we tip you now or later? It wasn't a fight. It wasn't even loud. It was worse. Casual cruelty delivered with the ease of habit. I left before I could finish my sentence. The next afternoon, a notification lit up the group chat. The message that changed everything. We need distance from you. Please stop contacting us completely. Something in me didn't shatter. It locked into place. The moments after that text felt suspended, like the air thickened just long enough to force me to understand what had happened. My family hadn't asked for space. They'd announced an exile. No discussion. No confusion. Just a verdict. And almost immediately, their silence rushed in, bright, echoing, final. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the message until my screen dimmed. No anger. Only a cold, settling clarity I'd never known before. If distance was what they wanted, I could honor it completely. An hour later, my phone buzzed with a name I didn't expect. Uncle Grant. He never called without a reason. When I answered, his voice was steady, cautious. I'm at your parents' place, he said. They asked me to help pack. For a second, I thought I'd heard wrong. Pack what? Everything, he replied quietly. Clothes, dishes, photos. They're moving out. I closed my eyes. Of course they were. They weren't just cutting contact. They were pulling themselves out by the roots, vanishing without a trace, leaving me behind like a bill they no longer wanted to pay. Grant paused before adding, I'll make sure anything with your name on it gets returned. Don't worry. He didn't choose sides. He only dealt in the truth. That reality, him standing in their living room, packing up the pieces of their life, hit far harder than the message ever could. Once the call ended, I pulled open the drawer filled with years of neatly organized, color-coded receipts. Rent, utilities, transportation, medical expenses, subscriptions, groceries. Every unseen strand I'd used to hold their lives together month after month. I'd always told myself I kept those records for my own peace of mind, but in that moment they became something else entirely. A map. A record of every moment I'd erased myself just to keep them afloat. I spread the receipts across the floor. Green for housing, yellow for utilities, blue for transportation, red for medical, purple for all the miscellaneous costs they never remembered I covered. Even the stacks seemed weary, their edges curling like they were exhausted too. I sat there on the hardwood floor, knees drawn in, and for the first time I allowed myself to see the truth without flinching. This wasn't support. This wasn't love. It was dependence dressed up as obligation, and I had turned into the framework propping up a home that never made space for me. That realization didn't shatter me. It released me. That evening Elias came by. He didn't knock hard. Just a single tap before letting himself in, the way someone does when they care enough to be gentle. They messaged you, he said quietly. Not a question. He could tell just by looking at me. I slid my phone across the floor to him. He read the text, his jaw tightening while his eyes stayed soft. You don't deserve this, he said. I didn't cry. I didn't fall apart. I simply breathed out, like someone had finally loosened a strap cinched too tight around my chest. I'm done, I said. Elias lowered himself beside me among the scattered piles of receipts. Then let's start with one thing, he said. Show me what you've been carrying. I handed him the first stack. Green housing. He went through them slowly, like he was turning the pages of a story that finally made the ending make sense. The next morning, I walked into Dr. Priya's office and told her everything. The message, the packing, the years of it all. She listened, nodded, and after a moment said, "Ending a financial entanglement isn't abandonment. It's self-preservation." That sentence was the permission I hadn't realized I was waiting for. When I left her office, my thoughts were steady. My hands were calm. I knew exactly what had to happen next. The message I would send my family wouldn't be emotional. It would be factual, final, built entirely on the truth they'd made me carry alone. I didn't send anything that night. I put my phone face down on silent, the way you do when you're finally finished letting it control you. But the next morning when I turned it over, the group chat was chaos. Missed messages stacked on top of each other like fallen dominoes. Nora had started it. Of course she had. "Where are you? Why aren't you answering?" Mom followed with, "You're being dramatic again." Then came, "Fine, we'll handle everything without you." If they wanted to cut me off, why were they demanding a response? I scrolled back to the original message. "We need distance from you. Please stop contacting us completely." It still felt unreal. Clean and sharp like a paper cut. But now I had something they didn't: clarity. I went to my small kitchen table, laid out the color-coded stacks from the night before, and took photos. One for each category: housing, utilities, medical, transportation, subscriptions, miscellaneous. Proof of 7 years spent being the family's quiet foundation. My hands didn't tremble. They used to. Not anymore. Then I opened the family group chat. My message went through as one solid block of calm precision. "I'm honoring your request for distance. Here is a summary of the payments I've been making on your behalf. All of these will end on the dates circled. Please move the leases and accounts into your own names within the next 30 days. I attached the photos one after another. Send, send, send. Then I added the sentence I knew would finally force them to stop acting like they didn't understand what I'd been contributing. "Of course, I'll cancel my direct deposits first thing." For 2 minutes, nothing. Silence. I pictured their screens lighting up, their faces, eyes racing over figures, dates, totals they had never once cared enough to ask about. Then the panic hit. "Mom. Maeve. What is this supposed to mean? Dad. Money isn't the same as family. Don't weaponize it, Nora. You're sick. You did this to embarrass us." Aunt Mara jumped in. Then a cousin. Then that cousin's spouse. Little gray typing bubbles crowded the screen like gnats. "Mom again. We meant distance from your attitude, not from you." I typed back. "Your message said to stop contacting you completely. I'm respecting that." Dad sent a long block of text. No punctuation. All rage. "After everything we did for you while you were growing up, this is how you repay us? We trusted you with our bills because we thought you understood family better than this." I didn't respond to the guilt trip. I'd heard versions of it for years, just dressed up differently each time. Nora changed tactics. "I can't afford to move right now. I'll end up in a dangerous area. Are you going to be happy if something happens to me?" I stared at the message, breathing steady. Emotional blackmail. Their favorite weapon. "I hope you stay safe," I wrote. "But I'm not responsible for your lifestyle." Silence. Then Mom called. Then Dad. Then Nora. Call after call lighting up my screen until I finally switched on Do Not Disturb. They wanted a reaction. I wasn't going to give them one. An hour later, a new message appeared. Not in the group chat but privately. "Grant. I'm dropping off a few boxes tonight," he wrote. "Stuff that belongs to you." They didn't open them. I paused. Belongs to me. When he arrived that evening, he stood in my doorway holding 3 carefully stacked boxes, his jacket dusty from hauling furniture. "They tried to rush me," he said. "Told me not to bother with anything that wasn't theirs. But I saw your name on some items." He set the boxes down gently. Inside were unopened kitchen towels, a blender still sealed in its box, a router they'd never installed. Things I had bought for them. Small efforts to make their lives easier, ignored, forgotten, still taped shut. Grant watched as I took it all in. "You did more for them than they ever acknowledged," he said. "Don't let them twist this." Something still tightened in my chest. Grief, maybe. Not for losing them, but for finally seeing the truth clearly, without the haze of obligation. When Grant left the group chat exploded again. "Mom, how could you allow Grant to be involved in our private matters? Dad will never forgive you for humiliating us like this. Nora, I hope you're happy. You destroyed everything. I didn't type a single word. I set my phone down on the counter and poured myself a glass of water. I drank it slowly, intentionally, in silence. 10 minutes passed before the messages shifted in tone. Anger turning into pleading, as predictable as the tide. Mom, please don't do this. Your father hasn't slept. Dad, I worked my entire life. You owe me respect. Nora, if you stop paying the phone bill, how am I supposed to call work or get help? I replied only once. I'm not talking about money anymore. Another pause followed. Then the long-standing family pattern split open right in front of me, like an egg shattering on tile. Nora, I still don't understand why you're so cold now. I answered. You told me not to contact you. I'm just doing what you asked. This time there was no response. The silence stretched long enough for me to hear the refrigerator humming, the soft thump of footsteps from the apartment above. Real sounds. Present sounds. My own life coming back into focus. But the calm didn't last. At midnight, the group chat lit up again. Extended family joined in. Aunt Mara, we never expected this from you, Maeve. Cousin Blair. This is extreme. You could have handled it better. Another cousin. Family makes sacrifices for each other. Why can't you? I didn't reply. Instead, I uploaded a simple document. Budget templates, renter assistance, resources, contact numbers for utility companies, basic tools to help them stand on their own. At the bottom I wrote, you're capable. You always have been. There was no backlash, only a stillness so complete it felt like stepping out of a storm into a quiet hallway. Around 2 a.m., one last message came through from Mom. If you do this, you're dead to me. I stared at the words for a long time. Not because they hurt, but because they didn't. I'm sorry you feel that way, I typed, then placed my phone face down. In the darkness of my apartment, for the first time in years, I felt something that frightened me more than their anger, relief. By morning, the group chat was silent, an unnatural, echoing quiet after days of noise. I made coffee, sat at my small kitchen table, and for the first time in years didn't prepare myself for a crisis. Instead, I opened my laptop and finished what I'd begun. I changed passwords, removed my card from shared accounts, ended every payment connected to their names. Each confirmation felt like cutting a thread that had been pulled too tight around my chest. Later that week, I sat across from Dr. Priya and told her I felt both lighter and terrified. She smiled softly. Peace can feel dangerous when you've lived in chaos. That night, Elias came over with takeout and a quiet sense of understanding. He didn't give advice. He just sat next to me on the couch, our knees touching, grounding me. I'm proud of you, he said. And for the first time I believed it. In the weeks that followed, my life didn't grow louder. It became clearer. I walked without checking my phone. I cooked dinner without waiting for someone to need something. Slowly, the quiet stopped feeling like abandonment and began to feel like freedom. I learned that love without respect isn't love, and boundaries aren't cruelty. They're survival. If you've ever had to step back from someone you cared about just to protect yourself, share your story in the comments. And if this resonated with you, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next.